pleasure to find myself in an incredibly beautiful, air-conditioned room overlooking the whole of London and seeing the most amazing prosperity going on in the city over there, and the cranes pointing to the growth and opportunity that is being funded for so many. Now, of course, the reason we're here, the reason we're all here, is because that growth and that opportunity is being taxed. Now, of course, some of it's legitimate taxation. It goes to pay for our hospitals and schools and so on. But some of it isn't. Some of it is effectively a stealth tax that we have seen applied to businesses, to individuals, to people across our country in ways that they simply haven't noticed for generations. What I came to notice in the pensions industry, through my own experience, was hidden fees. It was secrets kept, and it was, in effect, lies by omission. Now, this isn't just about the pensions industry, although clearly that's where we started today. It's not just either about the asset management industry, although that is clearly important too. It is actually about the very nature of how we build ourselves as a society. What's happening effectively is the dead hand of an industry is sitting on a bunch of capital that should be released for proper investment, for proper allocation, and is instead going into profits for individuals and businesses that are not fueling the economy as they should. So not only are we not getting the profit in terms of us as shareholders, as fund holders, us as pensioners, but we're also not getting the economic input that is absolutely vital and which is the actual purpose of the city. I know this is going to be surprising coming from a Conservative, but the purpose of the city is not to make people with braces get richer. The purpose of the city is to allocate capital better. It's not just defined benefits. In fact, it's all pensions benefits. If you look at BHS, for example, the black hole in BHS, I think, is said to be some £270 million. It is quite clear to me that that hole needn't have been as big. It is quite clear to me that there are many other companies that are now skirting on the edge of viability because their pension debt has increased to such a state that the company itself is now in question. And if anything was an indication of the dead hand of poor allocation of capital, it's that. It's the inability of companies to free themselves from obligations because somebody else is effectively taxing them on the way past. So it's something we've really got to attack, because if we don't attack it, we undermine trust. We undermine trust in the very system that allocates capital effectively. And we don't need to look back very far, in fact only about 8 years, to see the last time trust was really undermined in our system of capital allocation. And of course, if you undermine that, you don't just undermine a couple of jobs in the city, you don't just undermine a couple of wealth managers. You actually undermine the ability of young people to borrow off others on a 20, 30-year timeline to buy a house. You undermine the ability to put away a couple of % a year and know that in 40, 50 years they'll be able to retire and enjoy their grandchildren. We are now getting to the first moment of people retiring on effectively invested pensions. A few years ago, people were still retiring on pensions that were based on the company's earnings. They were based on defined benefits based on what the company had actually produced, and they were effectively, I mean, they wouldn't have put it like this, but it was effectively a continuation of salary in many ways, rather than a pension pot that was being drawn down on. So we're absolutely at a fundamental moment to get this right. Because get this right now, and what we will do is we will establish an industry that will see people have faith that the decisions they take today will have appropriate consequences in 30, 40 years' time. Get this wrong, and we will see people taking decisions reasonably now based on failures in the market today, that even when they're fixed in 5 or 10 years' time, will have consequences that those people will live with for the rest of their lives.
It's very important for financial advisors, if they want business, to establish trust. One way of doing that is to educate investors. Video is a great way of establishing trust. It gives us great pleasure to see our clients benefiting from these videos. Ultimately, this is a team effort. Together, we're trying to change the way the world invests.